Do we have your card?
I mean, the important person is, yeah,
Is there any way to control it? Zero.
It used to be a teleprompter, basically. She has been getting, maybe they still do it.
I think she brings in a, like an iPad or something.
She has the iPad that has all the phones in it.
Exactly.
But that may not have, usually they have blurbs they have to read.
Gosh.
So it used to be up there. Still may. Yeah. I mean, the idea is when you do this, you're doing it with different people, so you're getting different ideas. I'm more complicated than most of the people. So, except maybe Jeffrey.
I haven't met Jeffrey.
So you've done it with Todd and who else?
Just Todd. There was one day where it was Todd and I can't remember the guy's name. Is it John?
Oh, John.
John. He was here and it was like him giving me, Ramsey, some training and stuff like that. But yeah, I was here yesterday because we did it with Todd. It seemed like it went fine for the most part.
When I understand you're taking over next week.
Yeah, yeah, I guess we are. So, we'll see. See how it goes.
Where do you live?
I live in Arlington. Which is
first and then.
That's why we moved to Arlington actually, because we needed driving so much. When we were out in like Burke, Virginia.
Yeah.
So it was,
I used to live in Springfield.
okay, yeah, so it's similar, but it took like at least like 45 minutes to get out pretty much every day. So just pain in the ass. But
Get on the bus, read a book, play on my phone,
exactly, yeah.
and then I drive 2 miles to the house.
Yeah, that's nice. That's really nice.
Makes my life so much easier.
When I was at VOA, like I was part of a carpool, so it parked right at the building. Pay, no, didn't have to pay. It was like government parking. So that plus being about like 20 minutes away from the office was just like. So,
Where's your wife work?
she actually worked at VOA too. Yeah. And she does. Yeah. We're both like so. Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
So I didn't know they were hiring unless you're a contractor or something.
I'm a contractor here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I was fed over there. So.
Yeah.
Okay. He is actually there.
The business. The one thing that's funny hours a day is a white shot newsroom, just a big well, it was originally attached to a VCR that was on like this was a 2-hour and then just recycled itself. Eventually they turned it over. By the time they turned it over to London. Yeah. Started off editing there. Better.
Wow. Okay.
We would do Japanese business, they would all be Japanese.
So did you ever learn to speak Japanese, or just?
Just a little. So, I mean, did you do language stuff over there, or did you just speak when the English?
No,
people
it's
there?
like almost everything.
Well, I know it's all
Yeah.
foreign, but you.
No, I mean everything that I worked on was almost entirely in a different language. There were a few bits of English programming that we did, but mostly like Farsi, Farsi, but Mandarin. Basically, if you want to start learning this stuff for real.
Right.
It's too complicated.
Yeah, that was it. So every time I saw it jump up, it always which one had that. Purdue skills are not what they should be.
You were publishing those on. Yeah, getting in VOA was nice.
Okay, you should. Yeah, we have to. Yeah.
Ben yazmadım ya.
The only because what it may do is if justice or somebody else is doing everything, it may not be short. Because last one I worked on a couple weeks ago was like 30 minutes because there was a train coming out or something.
So what other areas do you cover? So like
So we do the sound for precedents, we do all the runoff, we run the interpretation, we run interpretation for POTUS and POTUS when they travel.
gotcha.
And then, most of our big ones all have interpretation, so we run the other big one also. And then, whenever they do, like briefing, the treaty room, things like that, the sound up there, same with the Franklin room.
Gotcha.
So we're busy, I mean,
It sounds like what?
we're small, we're getting smaller in our office, so. But yeah, in 50 countries.
That's amazing.
So that's when I do a check. So travel and everything. Is I do it in like, especially when this building, I'll do it in like 4 different languages. And just 1, 2, 3, 4. So I drive you home. Go on. So something. And yeah, I've been trying to run 1, 2, 3 in Arabic and it just is not standing.
It's so annoying when you're reaching into your brain to try to let a lot of that information it just does not come.
It's just, it's in that state. And I learned a long time ago when I was having Japanese. Many Americans.
My wife is from, she's actually from Portugal. So we have 17 women. And I speak in English, and she speaks in Portuguese. So he's like, starting to say words now and everything like that. So you can see him. He just said his like first word in Portuguese the other day. He said like bread in Portuguese, which is pow. Something like that. So he was pointing at it and he was like, pow, pow, give me some. And I'm like, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Right. Helps my learning.
I just, took Spanish in high school and college, but, for me, all my language got crammed into one spot. I mean, learning Japanese and all of a sudden this ancient Spanish vocabulary is coming out.
I took Spanish in high school. I definitely loved it. Yeah. Trying to learn language is hard, especially the more you
Well, it's just, it was one of the worst things. I mean, when I was in Italy, I was in Rome. It just came so easy. But I think it's just, I was, from what I know Spanish, so I think that helped a
Exactly,
great
yeah.
deal. But I had learned Spanish, I always had no Spanish. So it just came easy once I knew the word. It stuck in my head and I could say it, things like that. It's just,
Okay, that's
for me, but beyond that, you go anywhere else. You go to Germany.
Yeah.
This one girl I'm seeing tonight, she's German. And she's got me bilingual German, and she's just, and it's just, it's explain to her, it's beginning to understand. The only German I know is Hogan's Heroes German. That's what you learn. I always can say, go to the bathroom, things like, or I can say, can I have a beer? It's just, stuff, I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I mean, it's, like when I go into a new country, I try to things like that. It's just so, have some modicum of trying. So, it is.
I gotcha. Little something. I would say like in all my travels, I think most places appreciate the tourists do try to, just try local. It doesn't have to be a lot.
We would go to these small villages where they have some foreigners and we could go and talking dog syndrome, whereas you would speak to them and they would panic and reply in English. That makes no sense in my brain. You're right, I'm going to speak English. It's really good to hear.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Especially places like the Netherlands and stuff.
Oh yeah. Very much in order to.
Norway, Sweden, and Finland at the end of last year on vacation. And everybody's still Sometimes it happens, I can't say.
Hi there. I just got an update. Spox will be out at 2:45 because of the White House briefing update. Okay? No problem.
Hanging out here for 2 hours. I did earlier.
Yes, I just figured since it's delayed here, you might make me on the way. I'll put this picture.
Thank you. And they announced the 2:45.
Yeah, I was in the other room, so I heard it, and I was like, oh, okay, I better try to take advantage, let you take a break if you need it. Okay. All right.
All right. No, I mean, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
She doesn't speak a word.
Yeah.
So he taught you French.
I mean, I heard of this. The thing is, it's like not. I don't know. I mean, in general, I heard it, but not like this. Yeah. What are you doing? Well, it's Sunday.
Naturally.
When's yours? When's yours? Yeah, I haven't done those.
I do it normally. We can if I can.
Almost everybody's name in the room, so like Bob Williams these days. He never, my son seems like.
What did you
And then you learn some pieces on your back. Indian reporter, I forget his name at the moment. But he comes in, it used to be every day he came in, he had a bag of fruit and an apple and for the most part, they don't talk to you. They might say a little, or say a word or two, but beyond that. Yeah, they just don't care.
what?
Bird salad. Little something. I do
Yeah, last time I asked the question, there was some like, someone told me that it was
Age going company.
I don't know what it is.
but I don't see it myself.
Yeah, that's pretty
sexual equivocation. Like, four people. What did we talk about?
Just
Well, no.
that's, I'm not saying things that need to be regulated.
Yeah, I was supposed to do this. Did you come from all of us? I was the I had a great position. I was in the center. Yeah. You are That's right.
We are friends. Really friends. I left early, so that's not. Yeah, I left early. You managed to get there here.
Yeah, I can last night. I scheduled for Uber.
What?
And I was like,
That's it.
hey, yeah.
Yeah.
I figured they'd like my spot. I didn't show.
What do you think of this?
Oh, okay. So it's a unit of seats saying that Anna Farm is ready to take everything. I'm impressed. This is organization. Okay. Now I know who to go with.
Amazing things.
You're the one. You'll know how to get in there.
I'm getting to retirement age, I get all kinds of
Yeah, this is the.
I'm not seen
I mean, like, people
What did she say? Syria?
yeah, I think we did charter. My dad and I have the same first and last name, so it's like that. Besides the spam stuff, I get like a lot of stuff from AARP and other retirement organizations being like, hey, time to renew your whatever. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But is the thing I'm asking, like,
I get all these, cause I'm turning 65 or something. I'm getting all these things from people, individuals who say, I am a Medicare broker to tell you how to get, picking which plan X, Y, Z you want. I don't even know what any of that means. I should have need to. I don't know what it means.
the annoying ones that I see, I get are like, it's like, yeah, it's Rachel. Letting you know about our healthcare, like, you know, like, opportunity or something like that, as if like we've been having a conversation or something like that. It's like, he just like,
There was a guy named Omar, who was Hispanic, who had my phone number before I got it. And I don't get a lot of calls, but I get them every so often. And it's like, hey Omar, we got a shift tomorrow, we need you to cover. So that's what we need.
Omar's not here, man.
Omar gonna be late.
But before Omar, or like,
No.
why would you ever call?
When I had a landline in the apartment after I got divorced, I got a phone
some people got.
3 in the morning. GW hospital.
Yeah.
And I picked it up, she was in panic at that time.
Sure.
And it's like, so-and-so from the GW, there's an alarm going off from
Yeah, it's
the freezers in your lab. I'm like, well, one, the GW, I don't have it now, it's cool as that's out. And then I had like a 5-minute conversation with the person about what to do, and I'm like, I can't help you.
Turn it back on.
It's refrigerator, fix them. So I moved into my phone, yeah, you cancel my landline after that.
Yeah, these days, though, most people, I would say,
Yeah, it was a mistake I got. I had it for a while. If I lose my phone, I lose my entire existence.
exactly right.
It's absolutely every password I have is in. Oh, on the way out, are they changing it what to do on the way out?
No.
Okay. Or when they're leaving the place, is that she'll say thank you or whatever. And then Matt, the first one over here, he'll say thank you, John. But usually once they get are walking away from the building, you gotta wait. Like summer's our kid where it turned everything off.
Gotcha.
And then they get back. You said thank you, he said thank you. No. I mean, I was able to get the thing turned off in 5 seconds. And everything was on. And then they were so I came back and, you know, they were I followed the rules. You said thank you. He said thank you. So, but yeah. And the first thing you should do, naturally audio and then the video. Kill that first one you're gonna, the one that you have to turn on when they walk in.
Gotcha.
Kill that as soon as they're walking in. Then you can turn off the other one and start turning everything on. Because then they'll just go stand over there and do a scrub if they decide they want to.
Okay. And when you say turn everything off, you kill the faders and then
Yeah.
mute the channels?
Yep. Or just write it down, I mean. You know, it's the end of the week. You can even probably turn it off, there's not gonna be a preview tomorrow. But that's the only thing that turns off, that, the TV.
That's still.
Só dos 10 anos.
She was just talking to me now. She said, I'm glad you showed up today. That was a good one. Yeah, somebody else actually gave me the short yesterday. And I was doing live on that. It's funny, so she's spoken as well. It's always when there's a delay in the live house briefing, so I'm really but I thought you asked a good question. I was saying yesterday to be this.
It should, I didn't tell me they weren't.
They never put me down. I saw Tom, so usually I take the BBC seat when he's not here. But he's here. Confused. I was gonna take your seat, but I knew you were here. That's like an Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera has English and Arabic, so they can do one or the other. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you have BBC Arabic. Okay. Oh, that's right. Oh, she's there, yeah, okay.
Yes.
He said we are sorry. And we will investigate.
He said, how many times did he say that?
He just said no. I mean, I have it in Arabic, but he just said it now. Actually, no, I have it in English. If you guys want to. We deeply regret that a straight munition hit Gaza's Holy Family Church. Every innocent life is lost is a tragedy. We share the grief with the families and the faithful. We are grateful to the Pope Leo for his words of comfort. This will investigate.
Thank you, ma'am.
Seems like it was just yesterday that I was here. That's great. Oh my gosh, Nadia is gracing us with her presence. Welcome back from the White House coverage you've been doing.
Thank you.
But we were proud of you, if I may say. And yes, very good job. And not a lot of people would be as composed. I certainly am not when I'm there and talking to him. Yes, very impressive. So I do have a few comments for you as we begin the briefing here today at State. To begin, an update on the situation in Syria. The United States unequivocally condemns this violence. All parties must step back and engage in meaningful dialogue that leads to a lasting ceasefire. Well, whoever's got the music going, that's a lovely touch, but we really need it to be turned off. All right.
Sorry, can you repeat it again?
I'm going to start again at the stop. Please turn off your phones. Please turn off the sound. Do not disturb. You don't have to have it on airport, but although I could say that we are an airplane, but we're not. Let's start again, shall we? And welcome aboard to everybody watching at home. We know C-SPAN covers us live as well. We appreciate that. And of course, we're a little late today, but actually every time is the perfect time because our colleague Caroline had her later briefing, so here we are right now. So to begin, an update on the situation in Syria. The United States unequivocally condemns the violence. All parties must step back and engage in meaningful dialogue that leads to a lasting ceasefire. In a tweet this morning, Ambassador Tom Barrack, also, of course, our special envoy for Syria, said, "Thankful to all sides for their break from chaos and confusion as we attempt to navigate all parties to a more durable and peaceful solution in Syria." Over the last 48 hours, the United States has led diplomatic efforts to promote real de-escalation and peace. As Secretary of State Marco Rubio noted yesterday, we have engaged all the parties involved in the clashes in Syria. We have agreed on specific steps that will bring this troubling and horrifying situation to an end tonight. This will require all parties to deliver on the commitments they have made, and this is what we fully expect them to do. We are actively engaging all constituencies in Syria to navigate towards calm and continued discussions on integration and a stable, more prosperous future for all Syrians. To that end, we are calling on the Syrian government to lead in determining the path forward. Now, today, the United States also sanctioned TDA leader Hector Rutherford Guerrero Flores, also known as Nino Guerrero, and 5 other key members. The Department of State, through the Transnational Organized Crime Rewards Program, managed by the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, is offering a reward of up to $5 million for information leading to the arrest and/or conviction of Guerrero. TDA is a foreign terrorist organization that originated in Venezuela and has launched a campaign of terror throughout our hemisphere. We are determined to protect Americans by eliminating TDA's vicious criminal activities. In addition, yesterday, the United States, the Kingdom of Bahrain, and the United Kingdom marked the UK's ascension to the Comprehensive Security, Integration, and Prosperity Agreement, CCPA. This milestone framework builds on the historic Abraham Accords and is aimed at fostering broader integration in the Middle East, bolstering mutual deterrence against external threats, and expanding cooperation to advance security, stability, and prosperity in the region. And finally, for today's topper, starting today, Secretary Rubio decided to end the ordered departure status for the U.S. Mission Iraq personnel, including personnel at the U.S. Embassy Baghdad and U.S. Consulate General Erbil. Personnel who are temporarily relocated outside of Iraq will begin a gradual return to U.S. Embassy Baghdad and Consulate General Erbil. The State Department's travel advisory for Iraq remains at a level 4, which of course translates to do not travel. We remain strongly committed to advancing our policy priorities in Iraq, strengthening Iraq's sovereignty, advancing U.S. business interests, and engaging with Iraqi leaders and the Iraqi people. The State Department, U.S. Embassy Baghdad, and Consulate General Erbil will continue to closely monitor and assess, as you might imagine, the security situation across Iraq and the region. And that is the conclusion of my announcements. And I'm ready to take your questions. And we'll start with the young lady who was in the White House first. So we'll start with Nadia right now.
Thank you. I want to follow up with what you said. The president spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu. He just issued a statement to say he's very sorry about targeting, or not targeting, but by attacking this church. He said it was done by mistake. But the State Department and the White House put a priority on protecting minorities, especially Christians. How can you make sure that Christians in Gaza are protected? We have 3 people dead, including 88-year-old woman from Ayad family. And to make sure that these people are not actually targeted, but as the Prime Minister said, because there have been many incidents before, Tammy, as you know. They targeted the Russian Orthodox Church before.
Yes, well, in this case, of course, it was an accident. I think that the response from Netanyahu is an appropriate start. Of course, we share condolences to the citizens, the civilians' deaths at the Roman Catholic Church. We have asked that Israel investigate the strike still, of course, and ensure that all civilians, including Christian civilians, remain safe. That's one of our, of course, regular asks of everyone as we try to stop war and engage with ceasefires because of the horrible dynamics that exist across the world when this goes on. There's no benefit to this, any kind of military action, no real benefit at all. So Israel did express a deep sorrow over the damage and over any civilian casualties, and the IDF, they do note, is investigating. And of course, for further information, we refer you to the government of Israel. I can tell you, as I think Caroline also noted, that President Trump also spoke to the Prime Minister. And I think it's an understatement to say that he was not happy, that it's who is. This is, again, the kind of thing that reinforces his commitment to peace around the world. I've spoken with the Secretary today at length on a number of issues. Obviously, everyone is appalled. I can tell you, for those who haven't seen it and for those at home, the Israeli Foreign Ministry has said, Israel expresses deep sorrow over the damage to the Holy Family Church in Gaza City and over any civilian casualty. The IDF is examining the incident, the circumstances of which is still unclear, and the results of the investigation will be published transparently. Israel never targets churches or religious sites and regrets any harm to a religious site or to uninvolved civilians. The IDF has a statement as well. The IDF is aware of reports regarding damage caused to the Holy Family Church in Gaza City and casualties at the scene. The circumstances of the incident are under review. The IDF makes every feasible effort to mitigate harm to civilians and civilian structures, including religious sites, and regrets any damage caused to them. So this is, I think, a good indication of their realizing what the world expects, what we expect, and of course appreciating POTUS's contact as well, which is helpful for all of us. Nadia, one more. Yes, ma'am.
Syria. Yesterday, the Secretary told us at the Oval Office that the conflict in Sweden is between the Bedouins and the Druze. do you rule out any involvement of foreign fighters or ISIS fighters in what we have seen, witnessed in the last 3 days, including atrocities against civilians?
Well, obviously there will need to be some continued investigation of the nature of what's occurred. We saw, of course, the President and the Secretary note, both of them, that they've been involved, and certainly our Special Envoy, Tom Barrack, is also, of course, the Ambassador to Turkey. And we know what we know at this point. Clearly, there has to be more investigation into the nature of how this started, but ultimately, the discussions have created a dynamic where the Syrians have withdrawn, Israel has not continued, that has ceased, and of course there continue to be skirmishes. This is a rivalry between the Druze and the Bedouins that's, I think, 400 years old. This is, though, one of those challenges that, if perhaps confronted in the modern age with new possibilities of living together, that is the kind of thing we now know must be addressed. So we've had some success. You heard in my topper the Secretary's continued optimism, and Ambassador Barrack, of course, is returning and will be involved. And of course, I can tell you also that we unequivocally condemn the violence that has unfolded there. All parties must step back and engage in meaningful dialogue that leads to a lasting ceasefire. Of course, we know those lines from various other locations, but we also have committed to them, and we engage with them as we are also in this case. Over the last 48 hours, the United States has led the diplomatic efforts to promote real de-escalation and peace. We are actively engaging all constituencies in Syria to navigate toward calm and continued discussions on integration and a stable, more prosperous future for Syrians. And that continues. That has been the mission of Envoy Barrack, and it remains the mission of President Trump and Secretary Rubio. All right. Yes, ma'am. Humaira.
Hi, Tammy. I just want to understand, my colleagues asked about this yesterday, but did you guys get to the bottom of the misunderstanding that Secretary Rubio talked about yesterday? We see it in a different wording again today in Ambassador Barrack's tweet or post. Confusion. What was this misunderstanding, and did the U.S. government intervene in a way to assure that this misunderstanding will not happen going forward again?
You seem a little skeptical, but I don't know if I know some people at home can see some of the reporters here in the first two rows.
I guess that's a prerequisite in this job.
Yeah, yes, perhaps it is. But for those who don't know, the language from Ambassador Barrack's tweet: thankful to all sides for their break from chaos and confusion as we attempt to navigate all parties to a more durable and peaceful solution in Syria. And I noted to you already the language from the Secretary. The confusion, as was conveyed to me and was, I think, generally understood, was this ancient rivalry between the Druze and the Bedouins, and violence ensuing. The Syrians moving to that area to quell and stop that violence, and the Israelis who see that occurring to the Druze community and their concerns, then entered what they assessed was something larger than what, or even not what it was at all. I am not a party to the full discussions or to the details of obviously of all of these groups and nations and what their choices were. But when the Secretary chose and the President chose to use the word miscommunication or misunderstanding, obviously here now from the Ambassador, chaos and confusion. The good news is, the story is, it stopped as within the management of that larger conflict. Again, there's still skirmishes and other issues that, as we've also noted, the Syrian government is going to have to lead. With obviously there'll be other involvements, but lead into this de-escalation and to the stability. So this is a reminder, and you weren't here, but as I noted to one of your colleagues who asked as well yesterday, that this is a region and certainly a nation that has been unstable, which is why we talk about stability, for generations. There have been rivalries for hundreds of years. We are optimistic people. Humans tend to be that. And our effort is to try to bring this together and to stop it. The answer to whether or not there's hope is the fact that there has been a response that the parties have acquiesced and are dealing with that response, and that we are committed to seeing this problem that emerged, and now we know what to work on to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Right. My follow-up to that is related to something that you just said. U.S. is pursuing stability in Syria, as far as I can tell, lifting of the sanctions and.
I promise you that's what we're pursuing.
Right.
Yes.
So does it support Israel carrying out these military operations when it deems necessary?
I can tell you regarding Israel's intervention and activity is the United States did not support recent Israeli strikes. We are engaging diplomatically with Israel and Syria at the highest levels, both to address the present crisis and reach a lasting agreement between the two sovereign states. President Trump has outlined his clear vision of a prosperous Middle East and stable Syria at peace with itself and its neighbors. Peace among neighbors, including Israel and Syria, is a critical component of this vision. So I won't speak to future conversations or past ones. What we're dealing with now is this particular episode, what was required, and I think we've been very clear about our displeasure. Certainly the president has, and we've worked very quickly to have it stop. All right, yes.
Thank
Willie.
you, Tammy. Just back to your talk on Syria, you mentioned you condemn.
And let's stick with Syria for a bit while we're in it, just so you know, and then we'll continue on, of course. Go ahead.
You mentioned that you condemn the violence. Are you specifically talking about the Druze Bedouin
All the violence,
or also
all
the
violence.
Israeli strikes?
Clearly, this started between those two groups, and what we know is that violence erupted. Well, there's a continuing long issue between those two tribes, and then two major nations began to engage. Obviously, we then engaged, and it stopped, and that is, for me, a very, very proud moment. It's a remarkable situation being here at the State Department and here at this podium and taking this job is to be an observer of actions that can be taken that stop what could end up being major global horrible issues. And we continue to work on some. We've been successful on others, but it was a very heartening and wonderful to see the work in that regard. So I think that it's the violence in general that appalls the president, that disturbs the secretary, and it is what we all want, even though we've grown used to it. But it's possible. And if anyone can make it happen, if any country can, it's the United States, and it's the president, and it's Secretary Rubio. All right, yes, Sean.
Could I follow up your answer that you gave to Lamara, said that the United States does not support recent Israeli strikes? Can we say that the United States won?
Oh, boy.
Yes,
I know, it was suddenly the voice of God. Don't want to give you any hints there.
That's
though.
always my aspiration.
Yes, there we go.
Just going back on serious note, you said that the United States opposed the Israeli strikes.
Yes.
Two parts to that. Was there a message beforehand that Israel should not do this, and now going forward, will the U.S. continue to reject Israeli military?
Well, as you know, I won't speculate. I'm not going to comment on what was or was not said prior to the situation that we're dealing with currently, nor will I speculate about every situation is different. I am not going to speculate or guess, none of us should, at what the leaders of our country might do under any other certain circumstance.
Well, just also at the beginning, you were talking about how Syria and the Syrian government needs to lead a future path. I forget
Yes.
the exact words. But is there a long-term solution? I mean, you mentioned that the United States helped defuse the situation, but this is essentially the Syrian forces leaving part of what is part of Syrian territory. Are you seeing a long-term demilitarization? Is that what the U.S. would
Well,
do?
I know it's about Syria taking the lead in determining the path forward. And so that was a very specific way that it was put. And I can't, I think there's a few people who have an idea of what's possible in what seems to be maybe an impossible situation, but we don't see it that way. And I think that's where new ideas, new solutions can emerge, is when you don't give up to what you think is impossible. So I can't comment on what the strategy would be, what individuals imagine. It is a region that is ancient, and the people are ancient, and it is the modern world, and I think we now provide a chance, our generations do, to have a different kind of path forward.
Just one more point on that.
All right.
I mean, one of the points that Israel is making is that there are jihadists involved in this, and that some of the violence has been against Druze. Is there any concern about linkages potentially between the Syrian government, and is that something that the U.S. has seen? Is that something that the U.S. would?
Well, I know that from the beginning, the issue was, of course, working with the new Syrian government on dealing with the problem of ISIS. That's I think, a unifying dynamic. We know that ISIS has been an issue. We know in that region, my goodness, look at what we've been facing with Iran and state sponsors of terrorism, and what we've all experienced for quite some time. So we know that has to be part of which I won't preview anything for you because I'm not a part of that team, but we know that matters deeply to Envoy Barak, and everyone is clear-eyed about what this is, and yet it won't stop them from trying. But the good news is that the good and the bad news is that we have enough history to know what's solvable, what isn't. I recall before President Trump's first term that this idea of getting rid of ISIS as it was moving around the globe, that it was going to be impossible. It would take 30 years. This is just a giant, horrible thing that we would just have to learn to adapt to, but it could never be crushed. President Trump did not believe that and chose to move forward anyway. And I think it was about 18 months, 2 years at the most, and he eradicated ISIS. And so we know that there's in order for something new to happen, you've got to have the idea first. We have that. Again, we're not naive, but we are optimistic. I think that is the history of the American people. And we're going to continue on that. We have good representatives helping us with that as well. Yes, sir.
You said that the US didn't support the Israeli strikes, and you were asked about any conversations beforehand. But what about afterwards? I mean, Caroline Levitt had said that the president called Prime Minister Netanyahu, or they spoke on the phone today, in which he condemned the strike in Gaza. But was that lack of support for the strikes on Syria, was that also conveyed to Prime Minister Netanyahu?
Well, I don't know. I wasn't on the call. We were not informed of those details. Caroline had what she chose to share with you, so I won't get ahead of guessing what the conversation was.
And just one other
Yes.
question about, I mean, you've said in the church strike, you've asked Israel to investigate that. Ambassador Huckabee said yesterday that the US has asked Israel to investigate the death of Saif Musaleh, the Palestinian American who was
Yes.
killed. And yet, in the same 24-hour period, he tweeted that there was a travesty of justice by the in terms of the investigation of Benjamin Netanyahu. He called them the insanity of out-of-control prosecutors. So I'm just trying to understand how a system that appears that you don't have faith in over the investigation of Mr. Netanyahu is good enough to investigate the deaths of Palestinians.
Well, I would not want to characterize the ambassador's comments, but they were his remarks. If you want him to elaborate on those, you can. What I speak to here is the mission and the statement and the actions that the State Department and the President of the United States has taken and that the government is taking. And not just these two issues, but our overall view and vision of what's going to be important in the world and how we react to it. So I'm not going to characterize or place the ambassador's comments in any kind of context.
That was his retweet of the president.
Yeah. Well, it's not where I'm going to go. It's not what we're discussing today. Right. All right. Yes, Michelle.
I have a different topic.
Well, do we have any more Syria? All right, we'll come back. So, Michelle, you'll be the start of that? Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tony. On the path forward and also the long-term solution, which Sean asked you, do you believe that the only path forward in Syria is that the all constituency or the minority group is to integrate with a centralized government, or have the recent escalation, changed your view? And do you think that federalism or some sorts of autonomy is a viable solution for the current situation in Syria?
Well, part of starting something like this so new is I don't think it's really ever happened before, is looking at the nature of what works and what doesn't. Clearly, the people of Syria view themselves as Syrians. That is part of, I know, what was discussed earlier, of the nature of how you're going to have a government like that for that nation be able to represent and include everyone. The issue was including them. Of course, every government is going to be, and should be, the decision, how it's formed, the nature of what it represents, should be the decision of the people of that country. But you've got to have a chance to start with the very basics, which is stability, infrastructure, some modicum of peace that you can rely on. And we expect, again, there's been instability. So the stability part you work on and you assess it as it continues, and then you see what needs to be addressed. And that's what we're helping with. So it clearly is going to be up to the Syrian people. But the way that it would work is that because we've seen the history of when everyone is not included, of what can happen. But that is, again, this is where the negotiators, those who are wise enough to be envoys, who delve into this, which is the hardest work in the world, we'll leave that to people like Ambassador Barrack and President Trump and Secretary Rubio.
Yeah, help me if I understand you correctly. Does that mean that the U.S. is not opposing federalism or autonomy for the Syrian future?
I'm not going to comment further than just the theory of trying to get some stability here and the inclusion of the people who are in Syria, without going into at all what the details might be or what choices might be made. That's not my place, so I won't comment on that. Saeed, are you with Syria yet, or no? All right. Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you, Madam Bruce. Ahmad Shahidov. My question is about the very most discussed topic in South Caucasus. There is an ongoing discussion in South Caucasus about the opening of the Zengezur corridor between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and many believe.
All right, so we'll stick with Syria for the moment, and I'll come back to you. I know that's a large issue, but we will do that. Oh, yes, there we go, right there in the middle.
Yeah, thank you, Tommy. It's still about
Syria. So how the secretary is happy or convinced that the Syrian government is the right one at the moment for Syria, looking at what's happening with the Israeli and the Druids?
Well, again, I would just caution in any dynamic that is this fluid and changing, where it's new, it's the kind of new idea and commitment brought by the United States and President Trump. I would caution to not see something that occurs that has been by our government characterized as a mistake or a mischaracterization or a misunderstanding in the midst of something that is also part of a 400-year-old tribal conflict. But the story is, it was stopped. We were able to stop it. We know that it's not going to be utopia the moment we all agree, let's do this. And then it happens. It's the idea, and then it's the implementation of that idea. And that is the commitment of Ambassador Barrack and, of course, of our leadership. So I would say that the issue is whether or not there would have been a response to this, whether or not there are relationships and partnerships that would listen to each other. And it occurred. Obviously, there's more work to do, but it's worth doing. And I think that's our approach.
Yeah, follow up only. And if I may, Tommy, thank you. And how concerned is the secretary that these clashes, let's strike, that the Israeli had in Damascus may jeopardize the peace, the potential peace deal between Israel and Gaza?
Well, this is a whole region that has, it's ancient, the beginning of time, with clashes throughout and with miraculous governments throughout, just like the rest of human history. We're looking at this clearly. There's Ambassador Barrack. We have a very specific conversation going on about Gaza and Israel's situation. Certainly, we have Russia, Ukraine, and other aspects where there's new peace deals, new ceasefires that we also discuss. But let's not conflate all of them. There are different situations with different triggers, different dynamics. And that's why we look at each one differently, and we're working on each one with a different goal that is particular to that situation. All right, now, so we will go. Let's go to Michelle. We'll go to
the rescission package because
All
it
right.
includes a lot of money for the United Nations. I'm wondering if it's going to affect UNHCR's efforts to resettle Syrians back into Syria, which they call this a historic moment to do that. And I also wonder there's big cuts in peacekeeping, and it includes some language that is critical of the peacekeeping mission in Congo. Yet the peace deal that you guys negotiated relies on the UN peacekeeping operation in Eastern Congo to help implement it. So I wonder if you've changed your mind.
Well, of course, that's a dynamic regarding the White House and the bill regarding the budget, et cetera, the rescission bill, for sure. At the same time, and I knew, a little birdie told me that a lot of journalists were meeting and had a briefing on the issue of the UNHCR, yes. Right? And I don't have that answer for you yet. I want one for you. It's literally, I need to find the answer to the details of that. We're going to take that back and get that for you. And since there are others interested in that as well, we'll make sure others receive it if you want to contact us with that information. Regarding comments made in a bill, the nature of certain cuts, each situation is very unique and different. As we've, of course, as you know, we've just completed essentially a several month-long reorganization and some cuts regarding how foreign aid is applied and implemented and distributed. I would just repeat that even though there are cuts and we are looking at reforming certain dynamics, it doesn't mean that our efforts will stop. It doesn't mean because something looks different that it's going away. It might be handled differently, but I can't speak to the specifics that you mentioned, but what I do know that what matters to the Secretary and what we've expressed regarding that region and the work we're doing there is that what we need to have done will get done and will be funded and we'll move forward with it. All right. Yes?
Thanks, Tim. I'm hoping to ask about an update to the situation where the 500 tons of high-energy biscuits are said to expire in a warehouse in the Middle East. The statement from the department yesterday said that the U.S. would always look to try to avoid any kind of food waste, try to repurpose it. Is there any indication that repurposing might happen at this point?
Well, there's a lot of interesting numbers that have been moving about with this story. There are some basic responses I can give you, including the fact that if something is expired, we will destroy it. It's a matter of whether or not it's safe to distribute. But I think what's important and what part of the story is here, and a lot of people don't know this, is that we have been feeding the world's hungry for generations. And we've done it because we can. The issue is are we doing it as efficiently as we can and as smartly as we can? We, as an example, distribute roughly 1 million metric tons of food aid every year, which is reflective of the American people's generosity. Of the 1 million tons of food distributed annually by the United States, 500 metric tons of high-energy biscuits also is part of what your question is in the news has been that they were destroyed and they were expired, and yet that 500 metric tons represents less than 1% of the food aid that we distribute around the world. I would also note the difference in its situation where why those biscuits were stored. Americans don't realize, perhaps many do, that we store emergency food all around the world for people in the event of a catastrophe in that region. So we have food that we purchase and it goes to, let's say, the World Food Program or to another distributor assigned to specific sites for distribution. And then we have food that is assigned to be held in the event of an emergency. Those are emergency frameworks, and they are not distributed. They're there in the event that obviously something horrible happens and you need that kind of nutrition. That's where those biscuits were. That was 500 metric tons of what they say HEB, high energy biscuits, and that is less than 1% of the food aid that we distribute, as I've mentioned. The best analogy I can use is that I think most of us have, I do, I'll just refer to myself, a lot of batteries in a battery carrier that I don't use, that they're there in the event of an emergency and the electricity is down, and I know what needs batteries and what doesn't need batteries. And if you wait long enough and there's no emergency, they start to do weird things. They start to sometimes bubble over and get a little corroded.
That's why you should use them.
That's right. Candles, perfect in earthquake country also. Yes. Batteries, though, we have them. They're situated. Other survival stuff, you situate it, and then you have to get rid of it if fortunately you don't have to use it. That's this story. The story here is the nature of the commitment of the United States to food aid, which we all commit to,